So we've got a small crowd, so this will be a little bit more of a roundtable discussion. I'm going to talk to you about what I do when I do my student conferences, and then I'd like to hear what you do. I remember when I was an undergrad, I had this professor, and he had the most scary conferences. This is how he set up his office. He was at his desk, and behind him was this big window, so the light's flooding in behind him. He's just a big shadowy figure. And then across this large desk, there was a chase lounge, like a black velvet chase lounge.
Oh my God.
And he didn't use artificial light. He had the natural light coming in the windows. So you would come in his office, and he'd sit on the chase lounge, and it wasn't a new springy one. It was the kind that, like, ate you when you sat down. You just sunk right into it. So you'd come in, you could either perch on the chase lounge, but you always ended up sliding backwards, or you could sit all the way in the back of it. And then, not only that, as soon as he started the conference, he would start talking at you. He did not ask you questions. He did not ask for fee. He didn't even stop for breath. And it was like 45 minutes of that, and then he'd stop and send you on your way.
45 minutes? You must have a lot of time in his schedule.
Oh, yeah. They were very long conferences. So it didn't work. It didn't work for me. It scared the daylights out of me. I never had my questions addressed. It was just intimidating and uncomfortable. So I try to keep him in mind when I do my conferences. I passed out a sheet for you. The conference really begins before the conference begins. I start thinking about what stage of the writing process I'm going to conference with my students. I've done the beginning, the very beginning of the writing process. They don't know what they're going to write yet, so we bounce ideas off of one another. I've done the more typical, this is my draft, this is where I am. And I've also done something called bridge grading. Have you heard of bridge grading? It's interesting. The student comes in with a draft of the second paper, and during that conference you talk about the second paper. You also return the first paper with your comments. The idea behind that is you can take a look at what the student did well and needs to work on from that first paper and immediately apply it to what's going on in an early draft of the second paper. So sometimes that can work too. It depends on the needs of your class. It depends on what
works for you. It's not the same paper. It's the second assignment.
It's a second assignment.
The first draft, too. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So there are things to consider before the conference even begins. You also want to think about the seating arrangement in your office so you don't end up with a scary, scary scenario. What I try to do is make sure that the student and I are the offices are small and it's difficult to do this, but we're in a side-by-side enough arrangement that we can both look at the same piece of paper without it being difficult. So I try to avoid the across the desk thing if I can help it.